Welcome back to Predicting the NFL with Mickey G. This is week 2, but we're going to start out with a recap of week 1. My record in week 1 was 7-8, which is not a very good record. There's a lot of picks that didn't go my way, and I really didn't expect to go in that way. For example, the Kansas City New England game, which I don't think anyone picked Kansas City to win that game. They played a heck of a game, and they had Kareem Hunt go off. He played a fantastic game. Tyreek Hill had a fantastic game. Alex Smith played fantastic. Defense was solid. They were able to shut down the Patriots, who have arguably one of the best, actually not even arguably, one of the best offenses in the NFL. Another game, which I was happy the way it turned out, was the Jacksonville-Houston game. You can see I'm wearing my Jaguars gear, got my hat on. That's my team, and they won. They won 29-7. They didn't allow any points in the first half, which is pretty impressive. I did not think that Bortles would be able to perform as well as he did. I was very proud of that, and I also wasn't sure how Leonard Fournette would do. The only setback really of that game was Allen Robinson getting hurt, but it didn't play much of a factor in the game since he got hurt early in the game. They were still able to play well and win by such a large margin. So that's all that really needs to be said about the DeShone Kizer played a heck of a game against the Steelers. Yeah, he didn't win, but he definitely has solidified his starting job there in Cleveland. I think without a doubt that he'll have it for the rest of the year, and he might even help them win more than 2 games. Which will be pretty impressive for the Browns since they're not a very good team. But now let's move on to the picks in week 2. First game on my list is Houston versus Cincinnati. Now, this is my crap fest of the week because both of these teams got completely blown out. Cincinnati was blown out by Baltimore 20-0, which was a major surprise for a lot of people. I feel like most people expected the Bengals to be good since they have Andy Dalton, who's a decent quarterback, and A.J. Green, who's a fantastic wide receiver. And with some pretty talented backs in Giovanni Bernard and Jeremy Hill that they can do stuff with, and with not a bad defense either. But the Ravens just really took it to them and destroyed them. And the Houston, they played the Jaguars, and I already talked a little bit about that game. If I remember correctly, J.J. Watt only had 1 tackle in that entire game. When your best player has a very small stat line, you're not doing a good job. But Deshaun Watson in the second half, though, played pretty decent for his first game of his NFL career. And I'm going to pick Houston in this game because they actually were able to score. Cincinnati stayed with a big goose egg on their scoreboard. But Houston now is able to get a touchdown in there, actually on Deshaun Watson's first NFL drive, which is pretty impressive. The next game is Miami versus the LA Chargers. Now, Miami did not play last week, so we haven't really seen what they can do. This will be Jay Cutler's first start for the Dolphins. That's going to be interesting. Jay Ajayi is coming back after a great year last year. One of the top running backs in the league. Devontae Parker, it's a good receiver. He's going to probably be the main target for Mr. Cutler. The Chargers are not a very good team. Phil Rivers not a bad quarterback. It's not like they don't have players. They just don't seem to be able to finish or keep a lead and only end up with a small amount of wins each year. I feel like Miami, even though they don't have the best quarterback in Jay Cutler, I feel like they have a strong enough team since they were able to do so well last year. I feel like they have a strong enough team to beat the Chargers this week. The next game on my list is the Tennessee-Jacksonville game. Now, I'm going to definitely try to watch this game. Hopefully it'll end up the same way as last week, but I'm not so sure. This is definitely going to be a very good game. Even though the Titans lost, they played the Raiders, who had a fantastic game. But they also didn't too bad. Marcus Mariota had a good game. Mark Murray wasn't as good as we expected him to be, but he didn't have a bad game. He just didn't get as many carries. He shared a lot of time with other running backs. Jags are coming off a big win that I don't think a lot of people expected them to have. So that's going to definitely give them some momentum. Leonard Fournette played well. He's going to want to keep playing well so he can maybe be in the running for Offensive Rookie of the Year. Bortles played decent, which wasn't a surprise for most people. He didn't have an interception, didn't have a turnover. So that I'm very proud of. The defense was beautiful. Jaguars' defense was fantastic. They held the other team to only 7 points, which is very good and usually not what they did last year. And this game could really go either way, but I feel like the Jaguars have the momentum, and I think they'll take it away. The next game is the Jets versus Oakland. I don't need to say much about this besides the fact that the Jets are horrible, and Oakland has Derek Carr, who played fantastically. They also have Beast Mode, who had a pretty decent game. He had a very good average. Didn't have a lot of carries, didn't have a lot of yards, but he had a very nice average. Amari Cooper played very well as well. And the defense is decent, and they played pretty well. So they ended up winning the game. So I'm going to go with the Raiders. Next game on the list is the Cleveland-Baltimore. While Jerry Maclin did fantastically. He had a great game. Deshaun Kaiser did well. Isaiah Crowell had a good game against Steelers as well. But I feel like Baltimore's a better team. They just come off a big win that no one expected them to do. Same thing as the Jaguars. They have the kind of momentum. Browns have something to prove, but I don't think they have much talent or as much skill as the Ravens do. So I'm going to go with Ravens in this game. Next game is Dallas versus Denver. Now, Dallas had a big win. A lot of people were unsure about that because they weren't able to beat the Giants last year, even with Zeke Elliott. But they're going to have him back again this week. They might have him for the rest of the season, they're saying now. And Dallas offense is good. Prescott played well. Cole Beasley had a nice behind-the-back one-hand catch. Jason Witten had a good game. The O-line played a heck of a game. And the Denver played the Chargers, which aren't a very good team. So beating them is not really that exciting of a feat, while beating the Giants is more exciting. So I'm definitely going to go with Dallas in this game. Next game is Philly versus Kansas City. Both coming off wins. Philly beat Washington. Kansas City beat the Patriots. Kansas City offense was impeccable. It was beautiful. Kareem Hunt had a fantastic game. Really good for his first start ever. Alex Smith had another great game as well. He really played to his potential. And Tyreek Hill had a good game. Travis Kelce was not a big player, but I bet he'll get a little more this week. Defense played well enough to stop Patriots, which means they must have played pretty well. Even though Philly played well, but I think the Chiefs are too good at this moment after beating the Patriots. They have momentum. They just beat the number one team. So I feel like the Chiefs are definitely going to come out on top in this game. Next game is Arizona versus Indianapolis. Now, I was very disappointed in Arizona. I feel like they had it in the beginning, and then they lost it. They need to be able to, if they can keep a first half lead, then I think they can win the game. Plus, Indianapolis is just horrible. Andrew Luck is out. I don't know how long, but the Colts just suck. They lost to the Rams by like 40-something points. Granted, the Rams are a lot better than we thought they were going to be, but they're still bad. The Cardinals are decent, and if there's less turnovers for Palmer, he had at least 3 interceptions, if I remember correctly, then I think they will definitely win that game. So I'm going with the Cardinals. Next game is Buffalo versus Carolina. Now, this is going to be a very interesting game as well. Buffalo had a good game. They played the Jets, which once again are a very good team, so it's not that exciting. But Carolina played San Francisco. This is also a very good team, so that's not exciting. But Shady had a great game. All the Bills running backs had great games. Carolina offense, though, is stacked, though. Newton played well. And I feel like Carolina's just a better team, so I'm going to go with Carolina. Next game, New England versus New Orleans. Patriots are still a good team. Even though they lost, they're still a good team. They still have Brady. I don't know if that was just a fluke, or maybe he's finally losing his touch. But they're still a good team. The Saints are okay. Drew Brees is a good quarterback, but the Saints, I don't know. They're not as good as the Patriots for sure. I don't think there's much chance of the Saints winning. I feel like the Patriots are going to win this one. Next game is Minnesota versus Pittsburgh. If the Steelers have more running game than they did last week, then I think they can definitely win this game. If I remember correctly, Le'Veon Bell had less than 15 touches, which is a very, very small amount for maybe the best running back in the league. So if they can give him the ball more, then I think they'll be good. Also, if they don't throw so many screens, the entire first drive was just a bunch of screens. That was just dumb, in my opinion. They need to have smarter play calling, and they'll be good. Now, the Vikings, they have a great defense. Then Sam Bradford, he's a good quarterback. Highest completion percentage last year. Had a good completion percentage in the last game against the Saints. And both running backs, Jerry McKinnon and Dalvin Cook, had great games. Both had over 100 yards, if I remember correctly, which is very good for a two running back team to have both of them get 200. The Steelers, their defense is not bad too. They need to play better than they did against the Browns, not allow so many points. And if they get more turnovers and defensive touchdowns, like the blocked punt, then I think the Steelers can win this game. This is going to be my game of the week. Both two good teams, defense versus offense, but Vikings offense isn't bad either. This will definitely be a fight, that's for sure. But either of these teams can run away with the victory, but I'm going to go with Pittsburgh. I just feel like they're the better team overall. And they just have the bigger players, per se, to win this game. Next game is Chicago versus Tampa Bay. Now, famous Jameis Winston, he's coming back from that week 1 bye. And he's a pretty good player, and the Tampa Bay has some players around him to help him secure victory. The Bears only have running backs, in my opinion. All they have is Howard and Cohen, who was a big surprise. I'm pretty sure no one had him on fantasy, even though he was leading their team in both rushing and receiving for most of the game. I feel like Tampa Bay has the better team, so I'm going to go with them in this victory, though. Next game is Washington versus the Rams. If Kirk Cousins can have less turnovers, then I feel like they can definitely win this game. The Rams' defense is solid, though, as proven against Indianapolis, but Indianapolis also isn't that good of a team. If the Washington turns up and, for example, if they have all their running backs play well, all 4 of them that they play, and if Terrell Pryor can get the ball in his hands and Jordan Reed can get the ball in his hands, then I think they'll definitely have a good chance of winning this matchup. So I'm going to go with Washington here. Next game is San Francisco versus Seattle. Seattle just had a hard loss against Green Bay, but they're still a very good team. There's no doubt about it. Their defense is very solid, while San Francisco is just not a very good team. They played Carolina. They got pretty much destroyed. They're not expected to do much in this season, so I'm definitely going to go with Seattle on this one. Next game is going to be very interesting. If I didn't already have Pittsburgh, Minnesota being a game of the week, I think this would be game of the week. Green Bay versus Atlanta. In my opinion, the Falcons' offense is just as good, if not better, than Green Bay's. A lot of people don't agree with that, but that's my opinion. But the Falcons' defense is definitely better than Green Bay's. Now, they didn't make much of a difference last week when they played Seattle, but I still feel like the Falcons are going to come up on top. They just had a close win against the Bears. They don't want to be humiliated anymore. They beat them last year in the playoffs pretty easily, so I feel like they can do that again. The final game is Detroit versus the Giants. Now, Matt Stafford and the Lions had a great comeback against the Cardinals last week. And the Giants had a tough loss against Dallas, who a lot of people expected them to win. So, Giants are going to have their defense play really well to stop all the running backs for the Lions and Matthew Stafford from winning this game and from having those fourth quarter comebacks. So I'm going to go with Detroit in this game. That is all the picks for this week. Come back next week to see week 3, and hopefully I do better than 7-8. Thanks for watching.